Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Earmark Expo. I'm Blake Oliver. This is a session where we're taking the latest accounting tech for a test drive. We're going to see a demo of a game-changing app, and my co-host and I, David Leary, are going to be in the driver's seat. We're going to put the app through its paces and ask the tough questions that every accountant wants to know the answers to, and you're along for the ride. If you are here live, please ask your questions in the chat, and we'll highlight them for Omar to answer. So, Omri, I'm sorry. We'll highlight them for Omri to answer. So this is your chance to see cutting-edge accounting tech in action, get your questions answered in real time, and gain insights that could transform your practice. So take a seat, and let's roll with today's Earmark Expo.
So Blake, we're talking bill pay today. And there's so many options in the market to bill pay, right? From Venmo and your bank's website to apps that help companies pay 10,000 bills a day, right? But it's a little Goldilocks in the three bears, right? Either the bill pay app is too big for your client or it's too small for your client. And sometimes it's just never the right size. And that's the struggle we have as accountants, getting the right bill pay app for clients, because you can't just pick one and put every client you have on that one bill pay app. And so that's where today's app, Routable, could be just the right size bill pay app for some of your clients.
Yeah, that's a big challenge because my experience when I had my practice was I would implement, say, a bill pay app or a payable solution, and it would be maybe too complex for a client or not enough. And so I'm really eager to see Routable and like get a demo of this. So Omri, welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. I am going to kick things off by introducing what we do, also who we can help. I think that's, as you teed that up, David, that's fantastic. And then I'll just jump right into the demo because I think that seeing stuff is way better than talking about it. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and I'll introduce Routable. For those of you who do not know, just as a heads up, we've been in the market since 2017 with the goal to make accounts payable, payments, and vendor management easy. At a high level, and I'll go ahead and click full screen here. This is kind of how we view the market. We see the responsibility of the office of the CFO, whether you are an outsourced CFO or an in-house CFO, to build ladders of precise and accurate accounting, to have really good controls for compliance, to have additional controls for risk mitigation, including policies, fraud protection, and procedures. And then eventually we get to measurement and management, meeting finance and business goals, strategic planning, and then actually enabling the business to meet its goals. As a platform, we currently focus on the bottom three. The reason being is we believe that the bottom three are the biggest enablers for automation and growth in today's industries. And we also see that most finance teams do spend 80% of their time sitting here, while unfortunately 80% of the value sits here. So we want to unlock the 80% of your work so you can bring back value to what you are doing. At a high level, we want to introduce this platform to make accounts payable easy, but we don't want to just define it as accounts payable. We want to define it as accounts payable solution, a procure to pay solution, and a mass payout solution. And I'll talk really quickly about mid-market businesses and outgrowing Bill.com. So where do we compete? When we started this company, we saw a gap in the market. We said to ourselves, there are companies that are processing anywhere from 0 to maybe 50 to 100 bills a month on Bill.com. And they're probably using QuickBooks or Xero at this stage of their business. And when they're ready to graduate from Bill.com, they're typically thinking about their next ERP implementation. So they're thinking about Sage, they're thinking about Acumatica, they're thinking about NetSuite. And we see a lot of folks switching to a new ERP and staying on Bill.com, but Bill just not having the prowess to continue with the complexity of the ERP. On the other side, we see a very expensive set of players that are typically somewhat clunky and overcomplicated and requires high cost of implementation. So when we introduced Routable, we wanted to kind of say there's an ability to graduate from Bill.com right when you're about to do so and scale up beyond there. And high level, we have 7 signs that it's right time to graduate from Bill.com. So we serve customers that can do anywhere from 100 bill payments a month to over 100,000 bill payments a month. Typically, we start recommending considering a graduation from Bill at about 100 to 250 bill payments per month. We hear that there's a need for better sync. We have a 99.8% sync success rate. That means that we only fail syncing data 0.2% of the time, and really part of that, needing more complexity in approval rules, and a bunch of other fun things. And then here in the bottom quadrant, we really try to come in when complexity is already existing. So customers in this quadrant are typically doing over 5,000 invoices and bill payments per month. They are now trying to optimize. They're trying to delegate better. They're trying to deal with multiple subsidiaries. And that's where we like to come in and make this process simpler and more autonomous as you scale.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, your point
please.
of view or argument is, hey, if you're on QuickBooks or Xero, that's your GL, and you grow to a point, you can just add on Routable. You don't have to go get a whole new ERP and replace your whole
That is correct. And if you do switch, David, if you do switch from, let's say, QuickBooks to NetSuite, we can actually help you make that switch. We've done that several times where we could say, hey, we know your vendors in QuickBooks. We can actually auto import them into a NetSuite and so forth, right? I think the biggest things about migrating from an accounting software to an ERP is that the implementation is so scary. But if we're already along that journey with you, we can really alleviate that switch longer term.
And I see here on the list that one of the signs that it's time to graduate is the multi-entity support. So I'm eager to hear about that, because I know that's always been a challenge for those on say Bill.
Yeah, for sure. And we can work with folks that have 2 entities. We work with folks that have 85 entities, right? And at the end of the day, Blake, it's just about data integrity and user experience and figuring out which approval rules should go where and how the GL impact works and so forth. It's just really about nerding out, if that makes sense.
Well, we love doing that here on the show. So happy to nerd out more.
We're about to nerd out. So
Good.
I was gonna walk through this flow for our demo today. And I was also going to, at the end, show you guys a new version of Routable that we are releasing to a limited audience right now that's talking about how we're using machine learning and LLMs to catch invoice fraud and vendor fraud in real time. So I'll make sure to do that towards the end.
And that's super relevant, because David and I were just talking about this viral post on Twitter, this guy who generated a fake receipt.
Steakhouse receipt.
Yes. Yeah.
With the new capabilities of ChatGPT 4.0. So
you know what we did? We went to war on that. We started generating a bunch of fake invoices this week just to see how good they get. They get really, really good. And I think that's what's really interesting on that same thread. And I'll get into demo time. So I'll switch here to my platform. But what I wanted to talk about, team, is that not only is faking invoices and receipts going to be there, but also faking phone calls is here, right? So
Yep.
if you, let's say you said to yourself, okay, well, I want to call the vendor. I'm going to call this phone number on the invoice. I can build a pretty simple bot agent that assures you that you're sending money to the right account routing number, right? Hey, my name is Omri. I'm from Routable. I wanted to ensure that, Earmark's account routing number are 1234 456. I can build an agent that sounds exactly like a human today and confirm that. So our old methods are not enough, if that makes sense. And in theory, we want to fight AI with AI. Alrighty. Am I good to go to transition to demo?
100%.
Yes.
Let's jump in.
Awesome. So I'm here to view of Credo Beauty. Credo is a wonderful brand. My wife shops there, so that's why I thought about it. It's like a modern version of Sephora for you that are not familiar. In this demo, my name is Bella Ramsey. I'm a really big fan of The Last of Us and Game of Thrones, so I chose Bella Ramsey as my user avatar. And what I want to start doing here is first kind of introducing our inbox. So typically when people think about bill pay, they start with their inbox. At Routable, we have the ability to drag and drop files, forward bills to a specific inbox from your email. You can manually upload files in bulk. You can also auto import from your ERP or accounting software of choice, meaning that if I create a bill in QuickBooks, it will be available in Routable in real time. And then we also have an API. So if there's a need to process hundreds of thousands of invoices and bill payments per month, we have the flexibility to do so. I'm taking this view here today as someone who is working at a company that has over 1,000 invoices per month and 1,000 or so bill payments per month. And the reason I say or so is because you could always batch invoices into a bill payment, right? What I wanted to start here, just to show you, well, we OCR'd all of these invoices and we applied some AI and machine learning on some of them, but I always like starting from a new vendor, right? So I'm going to click into Canon. I see that we recognize the name of this vendor and so forth. We recognize in real time that this vendor does not exist in NetSuite, right? I can actually go ahead and search for it as well. But at a high level, we recognize that this vendor doesn't exist in NetSuite. And what we want to do is at a high level, I would say like Canon, I'll just make this up, electronics, can't spell, incorporated, and then maybe I want a similar name in NetSuite here with a specific ID because some accountants like the ID. Then we'll also ask you for the country, and you'll see that we'll update it accordingly. With all the integrations that we support both base currency and multi-currency sync. And then here, I'll just have Anna's email. So I'll say Anna at canon.com. Obviously, it says Anna Navarre at routable.com. One for that. And then I'll go ahead and enter that as my contact.
And if you pause in this screen right here, I really like how so many apps you put something in and you're crossing your fingers it syncs to the accounting system some way. You're showing the fields in the accounting system like this is how it's going to show up as your NetSuite vendor profile. Like you have the fields you're going to sync to showing up in the UI at the same time. I really like that. Yeah,
and if you can see here, I can call it Canon on Routable. The display name is whatever you want it to be. The legal name that I report to the IRS can be Canon Electronics Inc. And then in NetSuite, I can post it as something different. And I think that that's the thing that's really important. Each team does things differently, right? That's really critical. By the way, we can support payments to 220 countries and territories in 140 currencies, and we can typically give you the best rates. So just as a heads up. One more thing that I wanted to note, and I missed here, David, is that we're checking if Anna at canon.com is a duplicate for what it's worth, too. So we don't want to just check the vendor. We're going to check if it's a duplicate based on the vendor name, the legal name, the contacts that could be associated with another vendor, the bank accounts that are registered, and so forth. We want to create as much limitations as possible. And if for some reason you do not want to collect a W9 or a W8 from a vendor, you can exclude them here. Okay, beautiful. And in real time, NetSuite is saying, please do not enter these fields, right? And that's good though, because we are not going to send crap to my ERP. All right, now here's an interesting thing, right? We're going to start loading things and we're going to be like, hey, we don't have a W9 for this vendor. Some teams might code the bill and then request W9, and some teams might say, I want to pause, right? So I'm going to click view vendor, and I'm just going to go look at the vendor representation, right? We don't have any compliance checks done. We don't have any tax documents. We don't have a payment method on file. So what I can do here is I can either add this information on behalf of the vendor, or I can send an invite for the vendor to self-onboard. And that's what I'm going to do here. One of the things that we focus on to try to make our platform, I'd say, a bit more unique is that we're going to send it from your brand. So as you can see here, this email is going to come from Creative Beauty, and it's not going to come from Routable. We don't want to hijack your vendor. We don't want to market to your vendor. We don't want to confuse your vendor. And by the way, the text here that you see is customizable. So we also want to make sure that the invite really fits your brand. And if you're onboarding contractors, suppliers, etc., we just want to make sure that that brand voice goes all the way through. Can you guys see this screen? I just migrated to, yep. So as the vendor, I'm going to click on this page. I'm going to land here. It's mobile optimized, which is fantastic. And I have the ability.
So the self-onboarding of my ACH numbers that I'm going to type in or upload my W-9, it's completely branded to my company. That's
100%. And we also have an API. So if you want to build this embedded in your website, like let's say, for example, Creative Beauty had a affiliate program, right, David? And they wanted that affiliate program to be exclusively on credo.com/affiliates, right? They could introduce credo.com/affiliates/payment methods, and Routable could be completely invisible, which we love. We just want to serve what you want, right? Here, we're going to collect a phone number. And fun fact, a phone number is a really easy way to catch light fraud. So we're going to check the phone number for validity. And then here, if I misclassified the business, they can say that they're an individual. But in reality, we're going to do Canon Electronics Inc. Maybe we can say Canon Electronics as my disregarded name. Love disregarded names. And then here, we're going to have 100% of the functionality of the W9 form. We do the same thing for a W8. What I mean by that is you can see there's different types of LLCs. If I'm a sole prop, for example, I can flag that I don't have a business EIN that updates, right? I'm going to select a C corporation for my demo here, punch in an EIN. If I do have tax exemptions, I can go ahead and file them. And then in real time, we're actually going to be using address validation to make sure that you're giving us a good address. And then once we submit it, we can validate that this address matches the vendor. So I'll go ahead and enter 588 Bell Street. And then I can either upload my previously signed W9 or I can sign electronically and generate a brand new W9. And we have all the warnings in there to make sure that you can e-file for them. Any questions here, David or Blake?
No, I love that. It feels like the website. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I love that if they don't have the signed W-9 handy, they can just create one right there that works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to click Save and Continue, and then we're going to prompt them to select a payment method. These are our current payment methods. We have plenty of more that we're working on right now. If you want to receive a check, you can add your address. If you want to type in your account routing number, you can do so. And in real time, we can validate if it's good or bad. So if you can see here, this is a Fifth Third National Bank one. If I change that, it won't let me enter it. So we think a lot about data entry. And then you can also authenticate in real time with Plaid, which has become ubiquitous with good user experience. And every day it gets better and better in supporting more banks. So we do like the instant authentication that we're able to push through. I put in the wrong fake password. This is my downfall. But this is also a demo, right? And I'm supposed to do that. I'm going to go ahead and select one of my big accounts. In theory, I could select all if I wanted to split my payments as a vendor. If that makes sense. And then we'll load it in about a split second. And I'll have one bank account stored now as a vendor. In theory, I can have multiple bank accounts stored as a vendor, and I can switch my payments over time. So if I wanted to add another bank account, it'll just load here. But for now, I'm going to click confirm. I'm going to get a nice confirmation state. We're going to tell you where you're going to receive future notifications. We're also going to send you a thank you email just to confirm. I like paper trails, right? This is where we're going to send your money. This is what we just collected. And then going back to our vendor view, we can see here that we have a bank account on file and we have all the data that we need for an audit. And then we have our tax documents. At any given form, I can add a new one or I can request a new one. And then if I want to, I can actually say, enroll this in a TIN address and watch list search. So I'll go ahead and do that just to show. But we can help you at the end of the day file your 1099s and your 1042s. And we want to do that with accuracy and data, right? And we also want to make sure that you're super confident in the data that you're receiving. At a high level, what we really want to do is let you control when you want to check this. So you can say, if I collect a W9 or W8, automatically enroll. If a vendor gets paid over $600, automatically enroll. Or you can go into our tax tools and actually just filter this how you want to. You can say, I want to look at every vendor that is an individual, that I have a current W9 that I've paid more than $600 in 2025. Let's just start with that, right? I have none. Dang it. Let's just go with filter out some. There you go, right? And if you can see here, I can then click further and say compliant, not evaluated, can't verify, review required, dismiss, or outdated. Great. So I have now a set of 5. And then I can go ahead and either invite them to fill in their tax information, but they actually have it. So I can just enroll them in bulk and send this data to the IRS and then go re-verify it. And
so instead of me having to get a separate 1099 program I use once a year to verify
correct
all my 1099 vendors, and then
there you go.
It checks them that make sure the EINs are correct, et cetera.
And we'll help you file.
Built into Routable.
Built into Routable, and we'll help you file. And I think that one of the most interesting things is that everybody needs a different report, and we're fans of just making custom reports. So if our reports aren't good enough for you, we want to work with you to make it better. But if you're a fan of Track 1099, for example, David, right, and they're one of our partners, that's fine. Let's give you that, right? Like, let's make that simple. Tell us how you want your data, and we'll give you the format as well. So that is a really, really, really critical starting point. I think I'm going to move over. Oh, go ahead, Blake, please.
I think you're going where I was going to go next, which is we've got the vendor enrolled now. We've got their W-9, and we're ready to process that bill.
Exactly. So I was going to go back here. If you can see here, the new vendor flag is gone, right? I'm going to actually pull up both the Routable name and the NetSuite name. No compliance or tax issues found. And I can kind of continue from here, right? The beautiful thing about this too, right? My posting period might be closed. This is going to auto calculate the posting period for what it's worth. And here at a very, very high level, you'll see that I can drag and drop this. We're going to remember your view settings. Love that. And then also line items are important. So you can summarize a line item entry, or you can get every piece of data out, including tax and discounts.
Beautiful.
So we want to let people control what they do. Then we'll remember that, right? And then we'll auto enter your information. Also, if you don't like this view, you can mess with it. You can say view full line item drawer, and then you can pull this up. You can unfurl all the data, and the world is yours, right? Every account that we've ever met is different. Everybody uses a different browser. Everybody uses a different screen size. We want to remember your preferences, and we want to make Routable the most flexible way to view data as an accountant. At a high level, what I'll do here is I'm just going to move this back. But what I really want to show you guys really quickly is that we're going to pull all the data in real time from your ERP. So if you can see here, for example, department pulls in real time, class, location, etc. Any custom fields are going to be able to pull through as well, custom segments too. And then as you can see here, for example, I can book an expense to a specific subsidiary, Blake, right? So not only can I do multi-entity, but I can also take it to the next level and really power with real-time search, but splitting expenses across entities. And then
Down
if I have
on each line of the invoice.
in each line, exactly. And if you have any custom segments or custom fields, that's there. Taking it a step further too, right now, let's see. Right now I have approvals because the amount is greater than 10,000, and then it's also greater than 25,000. If I start going and coding this bill for 5,000, I think Bella will need to be the first approver too. So as you can see here, and I'll pause after I post this bill. And since this is my first time entering a bill, we don't know this data yet, right? But in the future, we'll learn this data, and I'll show you a bill here in a second where we've learned how you want to code it. Beautiful. And then one more note, like for example, I can choose a department. Does that change the approval rules? No. Maybe marketing? I forget what my approvals rules look like. Should probably be better at that. Perfect. So now I have Bella because of the GL account, one of Chad or Morgan because one of the following departments is made, then Mark because it's over $10,000, and then Brent and Taylor because it's over $25,000. And if at any given point I want to modify this, I'm able to do so. And then taking it first step further, I can already schedule this payment if I want to, or I can skip this for now and then release the payment later. But we know where we're going to debit from, how fast we're going to send the funds, and so forth. And we can support instant payments via RTP and FedNow. We can support a same-day payment. We can support a next-day payment. And then we can support every option of FedEx and USPS that you want. So there's plenty of flexibility there. And then
that's one you don't hear a lot. So if I need to, I could FedEx a check.
Oh yeah. So like, let's go flip that, right? I'll flip the check. I don't have an address on file, check address, but I do have an address on file. And if you can see here, I can do the 2-day or the next day if you want to.
Wow.
Yeah. And we'll remember how you pay people last time, right? So we don't want to make that too difficult. You can also modify the text on the bank transfer if you want to. There's lots of flexibility that we want to have. And then if this was already paid, we have Marcus paid, right? So you can just post this as a bill into QuickBooks, for example, and say at the point of entry, this was already paid. One thing I do want to note is that if any given point our OCR failed you or you weren't too happy with it, we have a train OCR on attachment button, which means that you can retrain the document and in the future, it'll be correct, which I love. All right, I'm going to go ahead and post this.
Before you leave this screen, there's a question that came in about line items. Actually, sure. It's kind of two questions, so I'll just bring them both up one at a time.
Please.
One is, does Routable integrate with project accounting or additional custom fields in an accounting system and have a way to integrate with allocations for cost accounting expenses by line item or inventory?
So the answer is yes on both, but I think that the allocations is more of a Sage feature that I'm familiar with. And the project both applies to NetSuite and to, I believe, QuickBooks and Sage. So to answer that question in depth, David, we'd want to get a good understanding of what you're using today and so forth. But just assume that any field that your ERP supports here, we support. And if you have any automations like automatic allocations in Sage, for example, we're able to support that as well.
So if I can in QuickBooks or Xero, if on a bill entry form, I can add columns for location, class, etc. You're going to be able to support that. And then
David, let's say you remove class. We remove class. Let's say you add a new field called David's favorite ice cream. We load David's favorite ice cream. We don't, and this can happen.
I don't have to go and set it up. Like you just see what my settings are and you just pull it off the custom template. That's crazy.
That is correct.
That's cool.
That is correct because who wants to do that?
And that's why your sync is so reliable, because that was always my challenge is if I add a field in QuickBooks, I have to add it in the other system, and then maybe I get something wrong, they get out of sync, and then it's a nightmare.
Yeah, and I think that the really interesting thing here is that if you think about it at a very base level, the reason you upgrade your accounting software over time is because you want more granular data. And we want you to just choose your own adventure, right? We want you to be in control of that. And we don't want to be the people blocking you. Really quickly, I'm just going to show this. So at a high level, here's what we just entered. Here's all the fields. Fun fact, I didn't have any blocking on the posting period. If I did, I would block it from NetSuite in real time. It's a non-PO bill. There's a link to the status in real time. My line items are here. I can edit this, and this will push back to the ERP. There's history here, so I can say, at Brent, this needs to go out tomorrow, and so forth. But I can also look at the approval rules and see that currently I'm an approver, and I can easily approve this here, and also review essentially where we'll debit and credit from and get into the fine details and so forth. Everything that you see here is also permissioned. And then, as I mentioned, small settings like this, like the view of the document, are customized per user. One more quick note is that right now I'm seeing this as an approve, but not approve and next. If you flip into your needs approval favorites tab, you'll see that everything that you need to approve or your team needs to approve. And if there's multiples, then we will introduce an approve and next button that you could sift through here and just power through approvals. Or you can approve in bulk, right? You can select 100 in bulk. As you can see here, I can support 100 rows per page, or you can select everything that is needed, assigned to you to move forward. Before I go to the next invoice that I wanted to show, do you mind if I quickly show the approval builder, David and Blake? I think that's probably the most important part.
Yes, and I think you had on that bill approvers based on the department, the amount.
Oh yeah, let's go back to it. Yeah, everything.
How sophisticated does it get?
So remember when I told you that we can use any field in your ERP, right? Yep. We can also do the same for your approvals. So let me jump out of here. Let me go to my account settings. And one of the biggest things is we laugh all the time, but you don't want to build a platform where you have to hire an outside consultant to manage your settings. You know what I mean? If we did that, we failed. So if you can see here, in theory, I'm just going to edit this rule, right? My GL accounts pop up in real time. Advanced is paid, boom, goes to Bella. It can also go to Bella or Brent or Morgan, right? That's or. All would say that they all need to do it. And then I can have rules within rules, right? And so forth. But I'll pause there really quickly. I can also say, here's another level. If it's marketing or sales, that's easy to do. I can do combinations. So if it's this location and this vendor and this department, only go to Brent. I can do this by amount. And I can introduce any field that was on that form. So if I want to add a new rule, I'll say David's rule, right? And then I'll say, well, from a sequencing perspective, I want it to be here. And I really want to pull SKUs, right? And GL accounts. And I also want department, right? It's relatively easy to go as deep as you want to here. So like if Brent on my team created the bill and assigned the item as this, the account is this, and the department is this, then I want Bella to review it. And then I want either Lauren or Mark to review it. And then if it's over, $5,000, then I also want Taylor to approve it, right? Choose your own adventure is like one of the most important things that we've found in accounting and finance. So we want to make this extremely simple. And we've also made it really easy to approve in the platform, but also to approve via email. Any questions before I proceed?
So the approvers, when they get a bill sent to them for approval, they get an email notification?
Yeah, for sure. Let's find out if I just did that, right? So,
oh, I see the new note. So when you made a note,
for example,
that triggered a notification.
Exactly, that triggered a notification. I'll also get one for me, something here. Maybe if we see that we use the word approve. Like, for example, this is an older one, but you can send you a digest. Here's a unique one, right? Please approve. Now I'm kind of getting out of my demo cleanliness, but you get the gist. We want to make this very simple.
There. Just click the
Exactly.
button, takes you to where you need to be in Routable.
And the cool thing too on that note, right? I can just respond to this email. I don't have to log in.
Oh,
I can
that
just
is
like
great.
say like cool, thank you, and then that will log back into that exact same bill. So we want to make that really, really, really simple.
I just want to call that out. That's a really neat feature because not every app does that. So
Yeah.
a lot of times you get a notification, but then you have to click in order to reply to the notification. But
Yep.
you've set it up so that if I reply to the notification email inside of my email, that reply goes into Routable.
That is correct. Again, choose your own adventure. Do you want to use Routable on your phone? Great. Do you want to use it on your desktop? Great. Do you not want to log in? Do you just want to talk to your team? All of those things matter. So Blake and David, what I want to show next is like a little bit more complex invoice with a two-way purchase order where we remember how you coded it, right? I'm going to click on this Google invoice. Here we have a W9 not found. We can choose what to do with that. But what I really want to click on is here we also recognize a purchase order. We allow you to tell us if it's a two-way or three-way match. We're going to pull the data off of the invoice. We're also going to pull data from the PO. And then we're also going to remember how you coded the PO. So I'm going to pause here really quickly, and I'm going to click View Full Width Drawer so I can show you all of the data. But if you can see here, not only are we OCRing everything, but we are predicting how you will code it, if that makes sense. So we're doing the data entry for you. We entered account, we entered department, we entered class. If in the future I will select subsidiary, we'll remember that subsidiary, right? So we want to give you the ability to truly view all the data that you need to from your accounting software, but also take it a step further. And we want to, with high confidence, code for you, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, the more that we can do to empower the accounting and finance team to do their work and not do data entry, the better that we can proceed. And this is, I would say, a simple invoice, right? We have essentially 3 line items in tax, right? Which is pretty fun. And as you can see here, there's different GL accounts based on the context of what we have here. Expenses, sales tax, sales for these ones.
And that's super important on line item invoices because you might be also getting your Google Drive access and you might be getting Google App access and you're paying.
Exactly.
And that's a SaaS expense, right? And you need to
exactly. And then like, for example, here, like it's a non-recognized PO line, right? So I can say like, hey, this is a non-recognized PO line. Maybe I wanted to add it or so forth, right? Or vice versa. But then we could just let you know that we're not finding this on the purchase order. Taking this a step further, I want to show another one for Keels, and that's why I signed up as Creative Beauty. This invoice right here, we're also going to find the PO, but we want to now pull up the receipts, right? So we're going to take this into a 3-way match. And then now you're seeing that we're itemizing the expenses versus the SKUs, right? So if you're a inventory-backed business, we want to make it super simple for you to see if there's any discrepancies. You're expecting $34, you got $37. Discrepancies aren't anything new, but look at how fast we're doing this, right? This is a process that would take 25, 30 minutes for a human to do. We're doing this within split seconds, and we're coding it for you, right? That's my favorite part. We're using machine learning and generative AI to go ahead and predict which departments and classes and locations should be entered on these fields so that we can truly bring back the ownership back to you and have you focus way more on the top of the pyramid, as we said, right? We don't want you to just do data entry. The more that we can do to make this easy, the better. Any questions about this? I want to now transition to just paying a bill, showing you guys how we send vendor notifications, and then we can talk about fraud and AI and all that cool stuff.
We did get a question related to PO mapping, so I'll bring that up. Would invoices applied to a pre-existing PO then be easily mapped and assigned to the invoice line items?
I'm trying to think that through. David. I'm trying to think if this is like a multiple PO to multiple bill ecosystem, or David, can you help me unpack the question?
I'm not
I
totally
mean,
sure.
I think that's what we're seeing here, right? So we have the
That's what I
PO
think too.
lines,
Yep,
and they're lining up with the invoice lines.
exactly.
And then
That's correct.
you have the ability to add a line on the invoice that's missing from the PO.
Or you can import from the PO. So if you can see here on the purchase order, I also have avocado, but it's not on this bill, right? I can wait for the next bill to fulfill that invoice, or I can actually import that line item here. So you can search your whole PO within Routable in real time, which is fun. And then we'll tell you what's matched. And if you want to unmatch something and you think it's wrong, right, you can unlink it from the PO. So you can go pretty deep here in terms
So then
of
when
that.
I get the next bill, you'll match the remaining items.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah, multiple POs to one bill, and vice versa too. So multiple bills to one PO. Sorry, go ahead.
Now all this PO data, all this purchase order data is coming in from the ERP.
That is correct, in real time.
Yeah.
And here's one thing interesting. So we did a lot of research, right? People have inventory, have a lot of inventory. We built support to up to 3 million SKUs, meaning that you literally can go power everything. You can throw 10,000, 15,000 invoices per month. You can have large vendors that come with tons of SKUs, millions of SKUs, and we'll be able to do this within seconds. That is our goal, to reduce what you're doing and to increase the confidence of the data entry. Alrighty.
Amazing.
I'm going to jump out of here. Thanks, Blake. I'm going to transition here back to my unpaid. I'm going to look at here. I'll go ahead and just approve this one. Fantastic. And then if you can see here right now, I can't actually release the funds for this one because it's gone to Chad or Morgan. They each received a notification to approve this. One of them will approve it. One of them will be dismissed. We haven't notified the subsequent approvers, but also because I'm an admin, I can also bypass that approval. So you can assign whether you want to bypass specific approvers, you know, maybe they're out of office or they're late and so forth. Or as an admin, I can come say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and dismiss all these approvers. We're still going to record them. So from an audit perspective, we'll show you the bypassed approvers. And then I can go ahead and release a payment, right? And this one will arrive by Monday. I can also just say, you know what, that doesn't work for me. I want this to arrive tomorrow. I want to release the funds. And then we'll go ahead and start creating the file. And what I mean by creating the file is we'll actually generate the ACH IDs and trace IDs so you can prove the funds settled. And then we'll send that data back to your ERP of choice. So right now it's in transit. Slowly but surely, they can see that a transaction record was built here. And as that transaction record will mature, give me 1 second. I'm going to go find one that was paid. Let's go look at one that is in a completed status. Perfect. We will generate the data from the bank in real time on both your trace ID and ACH ID, and then as well as the vendors. So if at any given point they complain to you and tell you that you didn't receive the money, you can generate a PDF that has your logo and everything and say, nope, send this to your bank. Here's all the bills that were paid for this total amount, for this invoice, and here's the credentials that your bank can go ahead and triple check.
This is amazing because this is always the secret sauce stuff that you have to go through layers and layers of support. And then they transfer you to their compliance team and then the special billing admin team. And then eventually somebody might help you or might not. And you're putting this in the hands of the end user too. Hey,
Yes.
It's been delivered. Here's all the confirmations. Here's everything that we know about the transaction. You don't have to pile through support phone calls to get that info.
And look, David, like we have excellent customer support, right? Like there's like ask support for help right here, right? We want to make this awesome. But at the end of the day, we want to expose all the data. We want to permission all the data. We want to make sure that you can control who can view the full account writing numbers and who can't, right? Finance is choose your own adventure, but these features were built based on customer demand. At the end of the day, our job is just to listen, right? So this feature didn't exist before. Then people were talking to us about how for batched invoices into one payment, it was really hard to tell the vendor what they were getting paid for. So we built this PDF previewer, right? That we can say, hey, on this transaction record that's showing up in your bank account, you're actually getting paid for 17 invoices. Small stuff like that makes the world go round, right? And gives you times back. All right, I'm going to pause there because I know we're at the 45-minute mark. And what I wanted to do last but not least is talk about our next version of Routable that we're currently trialing with select customers. So in the world of AI, as we discussed earlier, you can have fake invoices, you can have fake vendors, you can have fake receipts, you can have fake phone calls. What we're introducing now is, and I'll go ahead and play this video and walk through it, is the ability to give you multiple warnings as you are going through the process to understand if an invoice has been modified or if the data is inconsistent with the past. So here, as you can see, I'm going to click View Invoice. And what I'm going to look at first and foremost is that keels, that text was modified, the invoice date text was modified, the amount was modified, right? But also, if you can see here, I can detect that the address changed from last time, and I can detect that we have a duplicate invoice number and so forth. And I can detect that a new bank account was detected, right? So we want to start introducing what we call confidence scores based on the ability to give you high confidence. And we want to also give you the ability to, whether you're a seasoned controller or a 22-year-old AP clerk, to make decisions in real time, to fight invoice data that seems sketchy. And as you can see here, missing W-9 form, that's the lowest of your priorities, right? But a duplicate invoice number, a bank account change, we can tell you that that's high severity, and we can take it even a step further and call out, for example, that even though that this says Wells Fargo Bank, the routing number is associated to JP Morgan Chase, right? So we can call out fraud at the most minute levels. And we're super excited about releasing this new version of Routable to all of our customers, because if you're introducing automation, but you're also not introducing compliance, we don't feel like we're doing our job, right? So yes, we can, at some point, help you OCR within 10 seconds. We can help you PO match in under 15 seconds. We can send you the money today. Love that. But if you have over 1,000 invoices, if you have 100,000 invoices, the probability of sketchiness increases dramatically. And I'm sure you've interviewed enough folks, and I've interviewed enough folks that have lost $6 million in a week.
Yeah,
that is
it's
the
not
worst
uncommon.
reason. And if we talked about this earlier, David, and when I say earlier, I mean on Monday, but I feel like the office of the CFO is asked every month to take inventory of their house, right? So Blake, imagine for closing your books that you have a wonderful shelf there, right? Imagine at the end of every month, you had to take inventory of everything that was on your shelf. You might forget that your front door was opened if that was your number one focus, right? So when we close our books monthly, quarterly, and annually, when we prep for our audits, we put such a huge focus on compliance. And I love that. But we forget about the other side of compliance, which is fraud, right?
Yes.
And there's so many ways to catch fraud. But there's now also so many ways to introduce fraud. And our responsibility is to start giving you confidence scores, like we showed with the EIN or the SSN. That's a confidence score. But we also want to say, hey, we think someone took over your vendor's email inbox and is sending you fake inboxes. Last year, we caught $1 million invoice that was fake. Our customer said, hey, we think this is fake. We said, you're confirmed. Here's the 17 things that were doctored on this invoice. And the cool thing was that the hacker was smart. They took over their email inbox, right? They hacked into their email server. They took their previous invoices and just modified it slightly and slightly and slightly and slightly, but made it look real. And we were able to catch all of that within 15 seconds. and go back to our customer and said, do not pay this. And then that sparked this. We said, okay, maybe rather than doing this over a Zoom call, we should make this a service. And we're really excited about delivering that to the ecosystem.
And it's an incredibly valuable service because I just looked this up. Mid-market companies lose an average of $280,000 annually to invoice fraud. That's each. So imagine how much of that could be saved, recaptured, keep that money from going out the door just with some relatively, like, I know it's complex to implement, but it's a relatively simple solution just to score these invoices and surface the ones that are the most likely to be fraudulent.
It's funny. Like, I've never met a CFO or a director of accounting or a head of a CPA firm that has enough budget. And what if you can just say, hey, if we catch fraud, we get that budget back. We're going to lose $280,000. Give us $280,000 to buy software, to hire people, to do so forth. There's a really fun conversation to be had about resourcing for the office of the CFO and the general accounting ecosystem.
It's a great argument. I think, just reducing the amount of fraud, it's sort of like taking the same, like it just has a huge impact. It's like we like you said, we focus so much on inventory and securing physical inventory, but we don't think about all the payments, which are in many ways invisible. We don't think about the security of that, our treasury, securing the treasury essentially for our business. Yeah. So it's really, I can't wait to see this live.
Awesome. Too much of the focus is always on collect the W-9s, collect all that. It's all this compliance stuff and a lot of focus on that. And then the other focus is on just high volume, go as fast as possible with the least amount of labor. And that's when these are just going to sneak through because it's just the river's flowing too fast.
Yeah. And the way I think about this too is that we did this at a conference. So last year we were at an accounting conference and we printed out 3 invoices. There was 1 original and 2 duplicates. 1 duplicate was with human error. Like I miscalculated the tax rate. Not malicious, just, I don't know, bad at math. Another invoice had everything doctored. And I think we had a room of about 50 accountants in there. And we said, hey, we're going to play bingo. You find all of it, this is a prize you get. Not a single person found all of them, right? We're talking about people with MBAs, doctorate degrees, experts. And we were able just to make people go, whoa, I didn't think that far. And I think that that's the thing. The fraudster is thinking that far. That's their job. Your job is to find out a way to combat it.
And that's also with them focused on finding fraud. They've been told there's something wrong with these invoices. And imagine if you're approving hundreds or thousands, there's just no way you're going to be able to give it attention. So automation is the only solution to this for businesses with volume.
We were recently talking to a company that processes 200,000 payments or so a day. Yeah. Can our software process that? Sure. Margin for error is extremely high. You know what I mean? I think about that like kind of like TSA. A small regional airport might be easy. You go to Dallas, Fort Worth, good luck, right? Houston, good luck. But that's a similar way, right? We want to introduce ways to have the smoothest experience without giving up controls on what your board mandates or what, I don't know, software is innovating in the direction and you want to just stay up to speed.
So in the time we have left, I'd love to learn more about the pricing because I took a quick look and Routable has different pricing than I'm used to. I'm used to per seat pricing.
No per seat.
No per seat.
We found out, so I'll just start out with no per seat. And the reason being is that people hated that. We used to have per seat and an ERP license costs a lot of money. And what we found out is typically you give 2 to 5 people access to your bank and you give like maybe 5 to 7 people access to your ERP. But your operations team might need access to, did this get paid? There was like, there's essentially an onion, finance, then FinOps, then ops, then maybe customer success, sales. People want access to this data. So we said, let's just do unlimited users. And it has made our platform that much better because we're seeing which kind of user needs what kind of data in real time, if that makes sense. Platform pricing starts at $599 per month. It goes up from there, but it really just goes up based on throughput. And we do have special rates for accounting partners that we do partner with. So it is, I'd say, more expensive than Bill out of the box, but I think it can also be more powerful. So we try to be as flexible as possible with our lovely peers in the accounting space.
And if you roll out Routable to your client and Routable detects a complete fraudulent invoice and that business does not send $20,000 out the door, you're going to be the hero. That client's going to love you to death. And so
Exactly.
In the cost, they're not going to care how much this costs at that point.
Yeah.
Right. You get to be the hero for rolling that out. We did have a couple small questions that came in. One is Routable HIPAA compliant and security compliant?
Security compliant, super. HIPAA compliant, we're getting our certification right now. The reason I bring that up is because we've just had an onslaught of new folks in the healthcare space that want to enter patient or medical data into our ecosystem. So we roll with our customers. They said, hey, can you become HIPAA compliant? We said, sure. So we've started that process. It'll probably be done by, I'd say, June or July.
So soon, this summer.
Yes, very soon.
Another question about audit. If I have an audit and need to pull down all data and files regarding invoice, approver, payment details, and cashment details, would that be an easy download?
It is, but even further, we can just ask you for what exactly you need. So I think that the fascinating thing is that we have the IP address of everything that happens. Like, we were also able to stop internal fraud last year because we found someone was entering their office at odd hours and trying to create vendors at odd hours, right? But the answer is yes. And here's a fun thing. You asked about seats. Invite your auditor to Routable. Give them a read-only license. Ask them to search and peruse. I think that exporting data is one of the scariest things because, during the 1099 process, I see a lot of CFOs and CPAs having 10,000 social security numbers on their desktop. And they might go to Starbucks and they might work there for 30 minutes. It's a really easy way to get a lot of sensitive data. That's why we built the integration to file it for you, so you don't have to export the data. But yes, David, we can make that super simple. And then even if our report is not good enough, we can go ahead and build a custom report. That's always simple for our customers.
Omri, thanks so much for taking the time to show us this. And I love the flexibility of those payment approvals. I mean, the rules under rules under rules. It seems like you could do anything you could possibly want
with any field.
With any field. And that's the thing is the way you've built the sync to the ERP system, to the QuickBooks is so rock solid, being able to pull everything in. It just, it's a dream as an accountant. David, if our listeners, viewers want to learn more about Routable, where should they go?
They can just go to routable.com and start using it. Start
great.
Stopping fraud, right? Start paying these bills.
And consider it for your clients, right? If you're an accounting firm and you've got clients that have bill payments and you want to help them move up, graduate, Routable's the way to go. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Great. Omri, thanks for your time. Everyone stay tuned for a brief message about how to earn continuing professional education credit for watching this. If you sat here and listened to us and saw the demo, why not get a free CPE credit? You can do that with the Earmark app. And we'll see you all around on another Earmark Expo.
Thank you.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.